Okay, we got George Stark here from the Washington Redskins, the Over the Hill gang. George Allen coached in 1972. The Artie Clear Show. How you doing, George?
I was the only baby on the Over the Hill gang. I was a rookie, the only rookie ever to play for George Allen, actually. So that's right. I began my career with the Washington Redskins in 1972. And in my rookie year, we went to the Super Bowl.
And what type of coach was George Allen, George?
George Allen was a brilliant coach, zany, a little wacky, but probably the best defensive coach to ever be in the NFL. And if they hadn't changed the rules, he could make it so an offense could never score.
He was that good, huh?
George was the best.
He took that Over the Hill gang to build them, old guys that put him on the team, and they went to the Super Bowl that year. Billy Kilmer was your quarterback.
Well, we had Billy, of course, and Sonny. Billy played in that Super Bowl. George was the most gifted motivator of men. So, yeah, he took the Over the Hill gang, a lot of guys that other teams didn't want anymore because other coaches thought they couldn't play. George put all those guys together. George believed that a smart guy will always beat, a younger guy just because he'll figure out how to win. And he's right. So the Pat Fishers and all those older guys, simply were just too smart. And we went to the Super Bowl. George was a motivator, though. He motivated those men.
You talk about Pat Fisher for a second. I'm always thinking in my mind, Pat Fisher and Harold Carmichael.
Yeah.
Carmichael being 6'7", 6'8", Fisher being 5'7",
Yeah.
and he would always guard him, defend when he was on offense and defense. It was Fisher on Carmichael, and he always did well against Carmichael. It's unbelievable.
Because Pat, in addition to be pound for pound, one of the toughest guys to ever play. Once again, as I said earlier, he also was very, very smart. And he'd figure out something that bothered you, and he'd make you crazy, So I think whenever Carmichael put his hands up to catch a pass over his head, one would think, how would Pat defend that? Well, I think Pat grabbed him by the nuts or something. And his hands came down, and he couldn't get the ball.
Hey, you ever going to hit him?
Football.
Right, hit him below the belt. It's not boxing now, right?
That's right.
Talking about the Super Bowl run for the Skins, Joe Gibbs being the coach, 3 Super Bowls with 3 different quarterbacks. Never happened in football before. Theismann, Rippon, and Doug Williams. My guy, Doug Williams, throws 5 touchdowns in the second quarter alone. Tell me about those Super Bowls and what type of quarterbacks those guys were.
Well, if you don't mind me saying so, the quarterbacks changed, the running backs changed, but the offensive line stayed the same. Those were the Hogs, which were the finest offensive linemen to ever play. Now, I played in Super Bowl when we beat Miami. The Hogs were together when we lost to the Raiders. I left, but the rest of the Hogs stayed, and that group, beat Denver. That's the Doug Williams
one, right?
Yeah, and then went on to beat Buffalo.
That's the Mark Rippon one.
That's right.
And so you won with Joe Theismann.
That's right. So there was the offensive line provided the stability. So all of those quarterbacks could play, and all those running backs could run. But at the end of the day, it's all about the offensive line, and they stayed together as a unit. And that's why the team was so successful.
Anything in football, it's in the trenches. It's won or lost in the trenches, offense and defense. Right. And I always believe that. And you're only as good as the line will give you time to pass. I watched Joe Namath the other day, and it was such a shame to see him at the end of his career. And guys were taking it easy on him, but they said, his knees and that. His whole offensive line just broke down. It's like 4 guys going to tackle the guy, and that's totally impossible. If you don't have an offensive line, you'll never win in football. You have to have a great offensive line to win.
Yeah, no, you're right. I'm from New York, so I grew up, a Giant fan and a Jet fan and stuff like that. When I was with the Redskins, and we played against Namath, God, our guys just beat him up so terribly because his offensive line couldn't protect him. Namath wasn't going to run anywhere. He never was a runner. He needed time to throw the ball, and he didn't have time, and he took a terrible beating.
In my opinion, off the record, Joe Namath, probably one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, gets that gigantic win in Super Bowl III, and I've been watching his stuff. If you ever watched him in Alabama before he tore up his knees, he was as fast as lightning. He was unbelievably fast. I could not believe it.